In 2020, we have seen a global outcry for justice from America to Europe and Africa. Literally, it seems like the world is standing against injustice and crying for a better life, for better experiences. This month of October in Nigeria, the EndSARS movement kicked off, and EndSARS is a protest against police brutality in Nigeria. That's what it began as, and it's the movement has been evolving into something else. It's been evolving into end bad governance and hashtag new Nigeria. On the 20th of October 2020, sadly, the military was reported to have opened fire on unarmed protesters on the streets. The whole EndSARS movement, being a Nigerian personally, is very, very strong on my heart, and is something that I spend a lot of time thinking about, and I've also lent my voice to the protest. Today, I'll be discussing with my guest, Ore Apampa, about her perspective of the EndSARS movement, and literally it's just a chat to lend her voice. She'll be lending her voice to the movement, and also just talking about the what next, her perspectives about what should come next after the whole massacre at the Lekki toll gate on the 20th of October, which is a really sad experience. A lot of people have experienced different things. A lot of people are responding in different ways to that massacre. So that's what we'll be talking about today. What's next for the EndSARS movement? What can people do? What hope do we have as Nigerians? Ore Apampa is she's into digital marketing. She has her undergrad in industrial economics, a master's in digital marketing, and another master's in education, power, and social change. She's an education advocate. She's a mentor, a data analyst, information security developer, and a voiceover artist. Wow, she has a lot to offer to this conversation. So I'm going to get her on now. Aura, welcome to the show. It's so good to have you on.
Hi, Vivi. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for joining.
Okay.
So I'm going to begin by firstly, I want to know what does the EndSARS movement mean to you?
So for me, EndSARS was initially, we all know at the beginning, was about ending police brutality, police violence against civilians who are not even guilty of anything. I think it got sparked at the beginning by, the death of a young lady who got arrested by SARS when they couldn't find her fiance. And I heard she was brutalized and eventually killed by SARS. Now, it caused an outcry because people were wondering, how can this happen? Yet again, another young Nigerian looking forward to a bright future has had their lives cut short. So that's how it started. But then it's kind of morphed, as you mentioned, into other things such as ending bad governance, improving Nigeria, making it better. So that it's almost all encompassing. We just want a better Nigeria, and it started off as the youth, and it's still mainly youth driven. But we've seen a lot of other people come and lend their voice to it. So older people as well. You've got parents, mothers, mothers praying for the youth and protesting with them. You've got fathers doing the same. You've got people from different factions of life coming to kind of protest and to do that. So that's how it started, and that's what it sort of meant. For me, EndSARS has moved from ending police brutality alone to that and more.
Yeah.
And just to mention as well, I know there were 5 key demands that they'd asked for. So the first was the immediate release of arrested protesters. There was justice for all the deceased victims of police brutality and appropriate compensation for their families. Then there was setting up an independent body to oversee the investigations, and then having psychological test and evaluation for the police force to make sure they were actually fit to do the job. And then finally, part of it was actually requesting that the police be paid better. That also from first of all, it really mean they have less intention to do wrong, and actually just for their dignity, they better to do the jobs because their jobs are important. It's not an anti-police issue; it's more anti-police brutality. So that's it in a nutshell, anyway.
Yeah, something I really liked about the EndSARS movement is that
Mm.
people are saying that these police people are committing crimes, but they're committing crimes for a reason. The protesters are seeking to address the problem from its root, which is the corruption within the police force, the poor payments, the poor benefits that police men have that then drive men and women have that then drive them to do these things that they're not meant to be doing. So that's why I really like the movement. So how did the events of 20th of October affect you? What were your thoughts about it? Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, we have to tell people, okay, what actually happened on the 20th of October 2020, for those who may not be familiar with it. Basically, in Nigeria, in a place called Lagos, and specifically at a place called the Lekki Toll Gate, or Lekki Plaza, as it's known by some people, there were protesters there who had blocked that toll gate and were protesting. That day, a message was sent by the governor of Lagos State that there was going to be a curfew. It was announced, I think, at about, I think the curfew was supposed to start at 4, then it got extended to 10 p.m. But soldiers arrived at the toll gate and started shooting. They started shooting at unarmed protesters, people who were literally there singing the Nigerian anthem, young people who were just protesting their rights not to be brutalized by the police or by people in authority or power. And so young people were shot. They were shot. They were unarmed and shot. And basically we believe it was the army or a faction of the Nigerian army that was responsible. For me, where was I when I heard the news? I was at home. I heard about the shooting at about 7 p.m. I think 7, 8 p.m. in the evening. It was my brother who told me, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, "What do you mean they're shooting at protesters?" And then I went online, and the images that came through were just beggared belief. It beggared belief, And the worst part was that the cameras at the toll gate apparently have been switched off. Nigeria has issues with power generation, and sometimes the power goes off. But in this situation, or at that location, the lights at Lekki Toll Gate never go off, even when there's a power cut elsewhere. But they were put off so that I believe so that there wouldn't be any evidence. So protesters were shot. Some were killed. Many, they tried to rush people to the hospital. We also heard say that ambulances were sometimes even blocked from getting to the people who were shot and bleeding. And for me, it really hit home really hard that day, because I was just like, how can your own government order for young people, literally the future of the country, to be shot because they're protesting violence against themselves? As in, it was just, it just beggars belief.
Yeah, how do you respond to protest against violence with more violence?
Exactly. I just couldn't believe it. I wept that night. I woke up in the morning, I was still in tears for days after that repeated itself, because it just did not make sense to me. And then furthermore, when the president came and gave his speech, he did not even address it. That hurt. I mean, that hurt a lot, because it's saying almost like, for me, it came across as, we don't care. We don't care about you. At the very least, it would have been nice to have heard the president say, this has happened. We don't know who's responsible yet, but we're going to get to the bottom of it. But no, it was like barely any mention of it. So that was what happened on the 20th of October 2020. Is a date that we're never going to forget. And that was the effect it had on me. But more than that, though, it made me, already with the EndSARS movement, I was already getting involved, and from where I was anyway, posting online, raising awareness about it. But then that made me even more conscious, even more upset, even more angry, and even more my spirit is actually kindled a fire in me to want to do better. So yeah, that was the event of 2020.
Well, just listening to you repeating those things, it even started bringing back the emotions that I personally felt on that night, because my response was similar to yours. I felt like, oh my goodness. Because you see, the thing with me is that when the protest and everything was going on, I was like, oh my gosh, Lord, I thank you for we are seeing a new Nigeria. You know, like this is the makings of a new Nigeria. I was so proud to be Nigerian, because for me, I just felt like the impression of Nigerians all over the world is it's been so negative. It's either oh Yahoo boys, 419, corruption, underdevelopment, and it almost seems like Nigerians are stupid or Nigerians are silly. We don't know what we're doing. We just want to dupe people to get ahead, and we're not interested in developing ourselves. We rather kill ourselves. And for me, I just that's an image that always bothered me, because all those categories, I don't know anyone personally that fits into the category exactly of a 419er or a Yahoo boy or things like that. But then that's the image that the world has. That's the predominant image that goes around about Nigeria. So I was so proud. As like, I'm so glad that through this protest, people can see they were raising money. Raising money for Jane, the lady that went with crutches to do the protest. Yes, they were able to raise 5 million for her. It's Nigerians that saw her in need, that set up the funding campaign and raised that money in less than 30 days. In a very short time, they're able to raise 5 million for her. Nigerians set up a funding account for the protests, where making sure that protesters were treated, those that needed help on the protest ground. They were saying, oh, call this number if you need medical help, if you need a lawyer, if you're arrested, you need someone to bail you, call this number. And there was the whole thing of they even set up like charging ports in the on the protest ground. The kind of things we have when you go to Westfield in London, or when you go to a big shopping mall and then you see a place to charge your phone. I mean, these are common Nigerians on the streets. Do you understand? Not people holding any political office or anything, and they decide, okay, we're protesting, we need to charge our phones. Let's set something up so that when someone's phone dies, you can charge your phone so that we can get footages and we can share with the world, So, and then the transparency with how they were spending the money. I saw people cooking and going to the streets to share their money. In fact, I saw a story of this young boy that he was selling, we have children that are vendors. Sadly, we have that in Nigeria itself. Some children going to school because of the level of poverty and suffering. They literally have to start focusing on business at such a tender age. There are positives, but there are also negatives to it. Anyway, so this boy was selling on the streets, and two protesters wanted what he was selling to eat, and he gave it to them, and he said to them, "Don't pay me. You're fighting for my future. Just fight for me." Literally, that's like a paraphrase of what he said, So I was so proud. I was like, finally, the world can see Nigerians for what we truly are, and not the negative image of the few being priority, being the one that is loud everywhere. I'm like, the Nigerians I know, this is not the picture I'm seeing, So I was really happy about all of that. So imagine the hope. If I tried telling my daughter about it, she looks so confused because she's young, but I was just like, okay, don't worry, I'm going to write it so that you can read about this in the future. And also like, oh, I need to sit my children down and explain to them what's happening, because everyone was proud. But the issue is that the government then came and did this thing on the 20th, and for me it was like a psychological battle and an emotional battle. And I was like, these people are trying to break us, because I felt broken. The hope and the expectations that I had when the protest began and as it progressed, all of that just came crashing down. And it seems to me like the Nigerian government is trying to prove to the world that the young people of Nigeria are actually delinquents. Or I don't, do you understand? Because there's been all of these rumors, I don't know how true they are, but how do you see people protesting, raising money, feeding each other, fending for each other, bailing each other, and all of that, and then you're telling me that those same people went to prison and released prisoners? Those same people are looting. Those same people are committing crimes, are killing the police officers, the people that came up with the 5-point agenda saying that, reform the police, pay the police more, give the police benefits. You're telling me that those same people, you're trying to create that image, you're trying to maintain the crazy image that the world has of us that is totally wrong. I know you're the guest speaker, I'm not the guest speaker, so the passion took over. Yeah, please.
I was going to point out there that, in a sense, with the protests, there ended up being almost like two factions. People still, the issue is the word youth is used for both, whereas there's a demarcation. So there are people who were peacefully protesting, people who were contributing financially and basically trying to do things as in a good way or in the right way, but still making their voices heard. And then there were the other lot who were people, now we don't know who sponsored them, but basically some were called thugs, some were called touts, basically going about causing havoc. And even some of the prison break stories were refuted that actually it wasn't the protesters who caused those things. I mean, think about it. Unarmed protesters storm a high security prison and breaks prisoners out. Really? I mean, practically, really, does it make sense? It doesn't. So I don't think so. I get what was going on. That's the image, unfortunately, that goes on. But thankfully, we have people who, like citizen journalists, in a sense, who are going out and saying, okay, this is actually what's happening on ground. This is not what we're doing. This is what we're doing. It was very, very sad. It was very sad to hear. But I still maintain some hope. It's like I said when I was explaining how it impacted me earlier. If anything, there was even not just kindled a fire. There was already a fire there. It's added more fuel to that flame. Because for me, I'm now thinking, okay, what needs to be done? The next big thing in Nigeria is going to be election 2023. Okay, I then ask myself, what am I going to do towards election 2023? These are things I'm sort of thinking about, but it's an interesting thing. By the way, in terms of, just in case somebody was interested, if you want to learn about other really beautiful things that Nigerians are doing in the diaspora and within Nigeria, you should check out this Financial Times article that came out today, which is, I think the title was Why Nigerians in the Diaspora Are So Successful. And there's quite a few people who are quite successful on that. So I think definitely worth mentioning. I know not quite the topic of what we're talking about today, but I just thought to put that there.
That's important, because this is all the things we're fighting for. Because if the requests and the things that the EndSARS, because the EndSARS movement has moved from 5 points to 7 points, and like you said, it's evolving to end bad governance, new Nigeria. If we're able to achieve that, then the world will see Nigerians for its true picture, not just a few people, the image of a few people dominating 200 million people. There's lots of good in Nigeria. So my next question to you is, since we've already talked about the 20th, I'm just going to carry on with that to ask, what do you think are the victories that the EndSARS movement has had so far? Like we said, after the 20th, it seems like some people are like, oh, were we doing things wrong? Should we re-strategize? How do we then work in such a way that we are effective and we don't fall into the traps that the government is setting? For instance, like, of course, like, people are trying to play the whole tribalism card, try to get people split and divided.
Playing the religion card as well.
Playing
the religion card as well.
Exactly, the relation card, and what you mentioned, because of the two types of people, or the two sections of people, so to say, that the protests have revealed. Yeah, there's all of these things happening. So my question to you is, in terms of giving people hope and keeping glimmers of hope and keeping that faith alive, what, in your opinion, are the successes that the protests have achieved so far, or the EndSARS movement?
So interestingly, yes, what happened on the 20th, so people are going to call it Black Tuesday, I believe. So of the events that happened on Black Tuesday, if we put that aside, there are a few things that are already achieved even before Black Tuesday happened.
Okay.
Um, now, people, there was the issue that people said, okay, the government, yes, they said they agreed, but we needed to see concrete action, which is why the protests continue, because we don't want to just say, oh, yes, we want you to do this, and then you say yes, and then we stop, and then nothing happens. We wanted to see concrete answers. But even getting that government response was I believe was a big win to start with. And I think it probably shocked people in government to see people who claim they have no leader, and yet they're able to work hard, and actually people just like pitch in and contribute and make a difference. There was the girl who needed prosthetic legs, and a prosthetic leg rather, and people raised money for that. There were people who donated food, people who paid for ambulances to come, ambulances and medical help. People at the protest ground, there were people who provided, like you mentioned, solar power in order to, I think it was solar power to power people's phones and stuff. Now, what that showed me was its tiny glimpse of what it could be like if things actually work.
Yeah.
For me, that was, I felt very proud saying that, because
Exactly.
it's one thing to see people, okay, yes, you work for a company, the company has given you direction, do this, do that, and people are following it, some more efficiently than others. But in this case, it was literally people volunteering of their time and their resource, their money, their energy, to literally put out a message, put the message out there, let their voices be heard, to say that enough is enough. We want a better Nigeria. We want a place where you can go out and not be afraid that the person who's meant to be protecting you, the police, might be the person you need to run away from. For me, those were the things. It was just that glimpse of what could be. And it really inspired me to say, okay, we have the skills.
We do.
It's now, okay, can we mobilize ourselves? Can we come together? At some point, and it's been said a lot, that there's going to need to be leaders to emerge from this. Now, whether it ends up being that they form a new political party, or they go through the existing structures, new leaders need to be formed. If we put pressure and say, okay, you know what, we're not gonna vote for any candidate for presidency who's less than 60, for example. And if we're able to put our voices out there as we did, and also work on the grassroots side as well, because let's face it, the people who did come out to protest are probably of a certain level, a majority are probably of a certain, they're not in the abject poverty group, right? That's the thing. And they were not necessarily the majority of the country. There are other factions of the country that probably did not even understand what was going on in terms of EndSARS. They just know the roads are blocked. Okay, But so actually putting work into the grassroots as well, and educating them. But I do, strangely, through everything, I still feel hopeful. Yes, it did really hurt a lot to see that unarmed protesters were just shot at and nobody's taking responsibility. Everyone is passing the buck. Oh, I didn't do this. Or we don't know who did it. Or it was somebody in the army, but we don't know who gave the order. All of that, passing the buck, just not right. But it did show me that, okay, you know what? We have the power to actually do something and cause a change. And the thing is, change may be slow. That's another thing I have to bear in mind. I mean, we would all love it to see a utopia, Nigeria as a utopia in our lifetimes. It may happen, it may not. But here's the thing, for it to eventually happen, we need to start the work. And there are people who have gone before us who've done different things. Obviously, there was the Occupy Nigeria movement a few years ago. There are different things that have happened. And I think with each one, people are learning, people are seeing. Sometimes it looks like we take one step forward and many steps backward. But I hope we can learn from the things that have gone before and actually make a difference. And I think election 2023 could be something really exciting, and it could spell a change for Nigeria. There are problems, and like I said, it may take a while. It may take years, many years, but we need to plant the seeds now that will grow the trees that our grandchildren and great grandchildren will take shade from.
Yeah.
So it starts now, and I keep it challenges. This whole movement actually challenged me. Okay, what am I going to do? I can't continue to say, oh, I can't say it's not my fight. I want my children to have a Nigeria that they can go to and not be afraid to go there, and not feel afraid of Nigeria. That's what I'm fighting for.
Okay.
Sorry?
We lost you for like a second there. But okay. I totally get what you're saying. I mean, in terms of what you said about this is not the first time this thing is happening. Yeah, but on this scale, this is the first time. And the exciting thing about what happened is that one person didn't say, if you're in Port Harcourt, if you're in Enugu, if you're in Lagos, if you're in whatever, people individually, to show you the extent of discontent and how people are tired of injustice and how people are ready and hungry for change. People just individually got up and went out to protest, and there were so many that ended up going out. And also, like, I believe that one significant movement I saw that wasn't really classified as a movement per se, but in my perspective, it preceded what we've seen now and what we will see, what I believe that we will see in 2023 election, is the previous elections. I can't remember the year now, gosh, this is so bad, but this is the elections that put Buhari in government in the first place. That time, Nigerians rose up and said they didn't want corruption anymore. They rose up, young people. In fact, there was this young girl that set up a strategy campaign plan. She wasn't working with APC, but she personally rallied people to vote for Buhari. And the reason why she did it is because she believed in the change that he preached. She wanted a new Nigeria. She wanted the difference that he said he was going to give the nation. And so as a lot of people believed him, a lot of people took it upon themselves and began to rally and say, we do not want corruption anymore. We do not want Goodluck Jonathan because we believe that he symbolizes corruption and his government has been corrupt. Whether or not they were right or wrong, I'm not here to judge, but I'm saying that I saw a movement back then. And this looks like another movement at a stronger level. And one of the successes, personally, I feel like I've seen is that the government now knows that if people can rise up like this, they can rise up more. And there was this idea that President Buhari's actions is sort of portraying an idea that he feels like the government is still at a stage where they can continue to be unaccountable for their actions. That's why he feels like they can go take off the CCTV, shoot some people, and then say nobody died. And then when the evidence is too overwhelming, they accept that a few people die. And then you come and give a statement and you have the effrontery to say to people some people you have actually almost more, I don't want to get too emotional on here, and say to them that, oh, because I was listening to you, this paraphrasing in my words, because I was listening to you and I disbanded SARS, you mistook my action for weakness. Therefore, we will take strong action on anybody that takes advantage of the EndSARS movement to cause issues or to disunite, break up Nigeria, so to say,
It basically was a veiled threat to protesters.
Exactly. And I'm just wondering, like, how can you sit there and give this type of statement? Because to me, I feel like that was like a further blow to what had happened. Because I'm like, do you feel like you are unaccountable? Do you feel like you are God? Even if on this earth nobody can do things to you, you will give account of the things you have done. So that's, and let me not get too spiritual or too emotional on here, but that really got to me, that a president will come up and give such a statement and not acknowledge the suffering of the people people that stood by you because you made a promise, because you made a statement. I did not vote for him, I did not support him. I was more inclined towards Jonathan, but then I knew that it's not as if Jonathan on himself is righteous. In Nigeria, sadly, we've had the choice between two evils. We ask ourselves, what is the lesser evil? Even in Edo State, that recently the same thing with the EndSARS movement sort of happened in Edo State, where they rose up and they said that they were going to vote for the person in government, and the reason why they chose him is because they were standing against the previous government that they felt hadn't done right. And so 2023, like you say, is going to be hot, and I just thank God for the successes that people now know that they have a voice. I believe that people in their homes that were watching the protest believe that they have a voice. They believe that they now know that they can speak up. They now know that the people are more powerful than the government. And that's why the government is trying to shut down social media.
Even in addition to that, and even more beautifully, I love the response of the Nigerian diaspora. Because it wasn't just Nigerians in Nigeria that were protesting. Even here in the UK, in the US, in Canada, in other countries, even in France as well, people were coming out and saying and lending a voice. And the more it amplified the voice. Yes, there's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, we're still in COVID-19 times where different countries are facing lockdown and stuff, and yet we're still able to rise above the different competing news factions and different competing news articles to say, okay, you know what, everybody pay attention. This is going on. It kind of showed me, okay, there is power. There's power in we actually, how do I put it? There is a power that we can all harness together to actually move things forward and try and make a difference, and amplifying those voices. So amplifying the voice of people who are talking about what's going on in Nigeria and amplifying it elsewhere, wherever you can, so that's one of the beautiful things that came from this as well. But like I said, I remain hopeful. It was a hard hit. This like the events of October 2020 were a hard hit, but I remain hopeful.
Okay, so Ore, we're coming to the end of the show now. I'd like to know your final words to say someone's listening to this and they feel like, what can I do to make a difference? What can you suggest? Maybe one or two suggestions for them.
So at the everyday level, particularly if you live in Nigeria or wherever you live, be your brother's keeper, right? So because a better Nigeria is not just a better Nigeria at the top, it's also a better Nigeria wherever I am. So actually deciding to make a difference and be that light for people around us. Yeah, that's the first thing. The second thing I would say is plug in. Find a way of getting involved and making things better. So one of them is literally be your brother's keeper, be a friend to your neighbor. But then if it's getting involved with, well, first of all, reading the Nigerian Constitution, understanding what it says, understanding what your rights are, whether it's making sure that you get your PVC card so you can vote when election 2023 comes around in Nigeria, whether it's so getting involved, understanding your political parties, understanding who's in charge of your local constituency, actually being politically aware as well of what's going on, and understanding what's right and what's wrong, and then not standing for injustice. So you see somebody who is being taken advantage of in one way or another, speak up. Sometimes it's not going to be comfortable. Sometimes you will be scared, but if you keep quiet, you're giving the oppressor more of a voice and you're giving the oppressor more power. If more people spoke up, things would be at least that little bit better. But what I would just say is find a way to plug in. There are many ways, even if it's just retweeting a message, plug in and do what you can. And I'm hoping and I'm hopeful that Nigeria will be better, because we have what it takes. We have great skill, we have great talent, and it just takes people rising up and taking up responsibility and saying, you know what, in this corner, this is my faction that I'm going to face. So for me, for example, where I'm going to be focusing on is the education industry. Trying to see what I can do to make things better in the education industry. For somebody else, it might be educating people in politics. For some people, it might be grassroots stuff. So for some people, it might be being a helper or a proponent or an angel. I don't know what the word is, in helping people build their businesses. But whatever part you can play that part. Don't say, oh, it's beyond me. Of course it's beyond you. Nobody can change a whole country. but you can start with one. You can be that one person that makes a change in your area. And if everybody did that, the whole country would be better. So that would be my final piece.
Thank you so much, Ore. It's been really good having this conversation. I mean, to be honest, I have so much to say, but we need to wrap it up here. Maybe we'll have the conversation later. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for watching if you're watching this video. Thank you, Ore.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, bye. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe to Wise Attraction. Feel free to share your views in the comment section about the whole EndSARS movement in Nigeria. We pray for a better Nigeria. We believe that one day Nigeria will be great again, borrowing from the words of Donald Trump. Do have a lovely evening. Thanks for watching.